Hello friends, in this session I explain security services and its techniques. Attacks is a beating on system security that derives from an intelligent threat, that is an intelligent act, that is a careful attempt, especially in the sense of a method or technique to avoid security services and violate the security policy of a system. Now, I have started our session on security services. International Telecommunication Union and Standardization Sector develops standards called Relating to Telecommunication and OSI Recommendation. Recommendation X.800, known as Security Architecture for OSI, and IETF RFC 2828, known as Internet Security Glossary, are used as reference to systematically evaluate and define security requirements. Through coming from different standardization bodies, the two standards have many points in common. X.800 is used to define general security related architecture elements needed when protection of communication between open systems is required. X.800 establishes guidelines and constraints to improve existing recommendation and to develop new recommendation in the context of OSI. Similarly, RFC 2828 provides contractions, explanation, and recommendation for information system security terminology. Both X.800 and RFC 2828 are designed to assist security managers in defined security requirements and possible approach to meeting those requirements. They also help hardware and software manufacturers to develop security features for their products and services that follow certain standards. X.800 and RFC 2828 both mention several aspects of security systems, namely security threats and attacks, security services and mechanisms, and security management. X.800 defines a security services as a service that is provided by a protocol layer of communicating open system and that ensure acceptable security of the systems that are components of data transfer. Perhaps a clear definition is found in RFC 2828, which is as like a processing or communication service that is provided by a system to give a specific kind of protection to system resources. Security services implement security policies and are implemented by security mechanisms. X.800 divides these services into 5 categories. Here we look at each category in turns. Now, seen figure here show all specific services and the category they belong to security services and its data confidentiality. Next is data integrity, then authentication, then non-repudiation, then access control. Here we look at each category in turn. First is data confidentiality means protection of data from unauthorized disclosure. Confidentiality is the protection of transmitted data from passive attacks with respect to the content of data transmission. Several levels of protection can be identified. The broadest service protects all user data transmitted between two users over a period of time. For example, when a TCP connection is set up between two systems, this broad protection prevents the release of any user's data transmitted over the TCP connection. It can detect modification, or we can say insertion, deletion, replay, and attempt recovery. Finer forms of this service can also be defined, include the protection of a single message or even specific fields within a message. These modifications are less useful than the broad approach and may even be more complex and expensive to implement. The other aspects of confidentiality is the protection of traffic flow from analysis. This requires that an attacker not be able to observe the source and destinations, frequencies, length, or other characteristics of the traffic on a communication facility. Now, based on that, we have listed the specific tasks for that. It includes first is connection confidentiality, next is connection less confidentiality, next is selective field confidentiality, next is traffic flow confidentiality. Now, we have seen when confidentiality is lost. I explain loss of confidentiality with example. Like in this example, we have used three persons like sender A, receiver B, and unauthorized person C. In this example, sender A sent the secret message to receiver B, and the message is sender A said our company is going to make 10% loss in Q4 result. This message is secret in between sender A and receiver B, but an unauthorized person can access this message, and that person leak this message to media. So this message is not secret and confidentiality is lost. We can say that these types of attack is interception of data. So I hope you can understand data confidentiality. Now I explain data integrity. Means assurance that data is sent by authorized entity, or we can say contains no modification, insertion, deletion, or replay. As with confidentiality, integrity can apply to a stream of message, a single message, or selected fields within a message. Again, the most useful and straightforward approach is total stream protection. Connection-oriented integrity services on that deals with a stream of message. Assure that messages are received as sent with no duplication, insertion, modification, reordering, or replace. The destruction of data is also covered under this service. Thus, the connection-oriented integrity service address both message string modification and denial of service. On the other hand, a connectionless integrity service, one that deal with individual message without regard to any large context, generally provides protection against message modification only. We can make a distinctions between service with and without recovery because the integrity service relates to active attacks. We can concern with detection rather than prevention. If a violation of integrity is detected, then the service may simply report this violation and some other portion of software or human intervention is required to recover from the violation. Alternatively, there are mechanisms available to recover from the loss of integrity of data. The incorporation of automated recovery mechanism is, in general, the more attractive alternatives. Now, based on that, we have listed the specific tasks for that. It includes first is connection integrity with recovery. Next is connection integrity without recovery. Next is selective field connection integrity. Next is connectionless integrity. And last one is selective field connectionless integrity. Now, we have seen when integrity is lost. I explain loss of data integrity with example like in this example we have used three person like sender A, receiver B and unauthorized person C. In this example, sender A sent the secret message to receiver B and the message is sender A said our company is going to make 10% loss in quarter 4 result. This message is secret in between sender A and receiver B, but an unauthorized person C can access this message and that person modified this message like our company is going to make 0% loss in quarter 4 result and send to receiver B. So at that time receiver B can think this message is come from the sender A and trust on this message. So this way data integrity is lost. We can say that these types of attack is modification of data. So I hope you can understand data integrity. Now I explain our next point is authentication. Means assurance that communicating entity is the one that it claims to be. The authentication services is concerned with assuring that a communication is authentic. In the case of single message, such as a warning or alarm signals, the function of the authentication service is to assure that recipient that the message is from the source that it claims to be from. In the case of request for interaction, such as the connection of a terminal to a host, two things are to be taken care of. First is at the time of connection initiation, or we can say beginning, the service assures that the two participating entities are authenticate. That is, that each is the entity that is claims to be. And second one is the service must assure that the connection is not interfered with in such a way that a third party can treat as one of the two legitimate parties and perform unauthorized transmission or recipients. Now we have seen two specific authentication services are defined in X.800. First is pure entity authentication, means provide for the justification for the identity of two entities participating in communication. Pure entity authentication is provided for use at the establishment of or at time during the data transfer phase of a connection. It attempts to provide confidence that an entity is not performing either a ruse or an unauthorized replay of a previous connection. And second one is data origin authentication, means provides for the validation of the source of a message. Here, the message comes from the sender. It does not provide protection against the duplication or modification of data units. These types of service supports application like electronic mail, where there are no prior interaction between communicating entities. Now, based on that, we have listed the specific tasks for that. It includes first one is pure entity authentication, and next one is data origin authentication. Now we have seen when authentication is lost. I explain loss of data authentication with example, like in this example we have three person like sender A, receiver B, and unauthorized person C. In common, sender A sent the secret message to receiver B, but in these attacks, unauthorized user react like user A and send to message to user B. Now, user B can assume this message comes from user A. We can say that this type of attack is fabrication of data. So I hope you can understand authentication. Now, I have seen our next point is non-repudiation, means provides protection against one of the entities from rebuffering all or part of communication. Non-repudiation prevents either sender or receiver from rejecting message transmission or receipt of message. Thus, when a message is sent, the receiver can prove that the suspected sender in fact sent the message. Similarly, when a message is received, the sender can prove that the suspected receiver in fact received the message. Now, based on that, we have listed the specific tasks for that. It includes first is non-repudiation of origin, and second one is non-repudiation of destinations. Now we have C, establishment of non-repudiation. In this figure, we have take two person like sender A and receiver B. User A, or we can say sender A, sent the message to receiver B. Here, receiver B is bank person. User A sent the message like, I have transferred some funds to XYZ accounts. After that, bank person, or we can say receiver B, transfer that funds. At that time, user A said, I never sent these types of message. Okay, so I hope you can understand non-repudiation of data. Now we have seen our next point, access control, means prevention of unauthorized use of a resource. Both X.800 and RFC 2828 defined availability to be the property of a system or a system resource being accessible and usable upon demand by an authorized system entity according to performance specification for the systems. Like a system is available if it provides services according to the system design whenever user requests them. A variety of attacks can result in the loss of or reduction in availability. Some of these attacks are responsive to automated countermeasures such as authentication and encryption, whereas others require some sort of physical actions to prevent or recover from loss of availability of elements of a distributed systems. X.800 treats availability as a property to be associated with various security services. However, it makes sense to call out specially an availability service. An availability service is one that protects a system to ensure its availability to authorized users. This service addresses the security concerns raised by denial of service attacks. It depends on proper management and control of system resource and thus depends on access control service and other security services. Now we have C, attacks on availability. In this example, we have three person like sender A, receiver B, and unauthorized person C. User A, or we can say sender A, wants to access some services for receiver B. Here, unauthorized person C generates lots of traffic between connection of sender A and receiver B. So, sender A cannot access that services. So, that types of attacks is known as denial of service attacks and it is known as interruption. So, I hope you can understand the data access control. Now, I explain specific security mechanisms. This may be incorporated into an appropriate protocol layer in order to provide some of the OSI layer services. Some techniques for analyzing security are listed here. First one is encipherment, means this is the process of using mathematical algorithms to transform data into a form that is not readily intelligible, or we can say it is not understandable by regular or authorized users. The transformations and subsequent recovery of the data depends on an algorithm and zero or more encryption keys. So with the help of algorithms, we have convert our original data into unreadable data. So in next, we have seen digital signatures, means data or cryptographic transformation of data unit is appended to the data so that the recipients of the data unit is convinced of the source and integrity of data units, and this can also serve to protect the data against fakes. Here we have talked about data recipients. Now we have seen access controls, means a variety of mechanisms are available that enforce access rights to resource. Now next we have seen data integrity, means a variety of mechanisms may be used to assure that integrity of a data unit or streams of data units. Now next one is authentication exchange. In this, we have say this is a mechanism intended to ensure the identity of an entity by means of information exchange. Now we have C, traffic padding, means the insertion of bits into gaps in a data stream is called traffic padding. This helps to spoil traffic analysis attempts. Next one is routing control, means routing controls enable selection of particular physically secure routes of certain data transmission and allows routing change, especially when a breach of security is suspected. Now, next one is notarization, means this is the use of trusted third party to assure certain properties of data exchange. Now, I explained prevention security mechanisms. These are the mechanisms that are not specific to any particular OSI security services or protocol layer. First one is trusted functionalities, means the process that which is perceived to be correct with respect to some criteria. We can say that criteria are as established by a security policy. Next one is security label, means this is the technique of marking of a bound to resource, which may be a data unit that names or designed the security attributes of that resource. Now, next one is event detection, means detection of security relevant events such as fake, denial of sending or receiving of data, alteration of data, etc. is another important essential mechanism. Now, next one is security audit trails, means data can collected and potentially used to facilitate a security audit, which is an independent review and examination of system record and activities. Next one is security recovery, means this deals with requests from mechanisms such as event handling and management functions and takes recovery actions. Now, I explained techniques of securities. Mechanisms discussed in the previous sections are only theoretical guidelines to implement security. The actual implementation of security goals needs some techniques. Two techniques are prevent today's. One for that, one is cryptography. Is very general, and other one is stagnography. Is specific. Now I explain cryptography. Some security mechanism listed in the previous section can be implemented using cryptography. Cryptography, a word with Greek origin, means secret writing. However, we use the term to refer to the science and art of transforming message to make them secure and immune to attacks. Although in the past, cryptography referred only to the encryption and decryption of message using secret keys. Today, it is defined as involving three distinct mechanisms. First one is systematic key encryption or encipherment. Second one is asymmetric encipherment, and last one is hashing. We will briefly discuss these three mechanisms here. So first one is systematic key encipherment. In systematic encipherment, an entity, say A, can send a message to other entity, say B, over an insecure channel with the assumption that an opponent, say E, cannot understand the content of the message by simply snooping over the channel. Entity A encrypts the message using an encryption algorithm. Entity B decrypts the message using a decryption algorithm. Symmetric key encipherment use a single secret key for both encryption and decryption. Encryption and decryption can be through of electronic locking system. In symmetric key encipherment, entity A puts the message in a box and locks the box using the shared secret key. Entity B unlocks the box with the same key and takes out the message. I explain these things with example. In this example, we have two persons like user A, or we can say sender A and receiver B. Both are connected with insecure channel. Now, sender A wants to send the message to receiver B. For that, user A, or we can say sender A, encrypt their message with its key, means sender A keys, and generate encrypted key and send that message to receiver B. Now, message is encrypted from, so unauthorized user cannot understand that message. Now, receiver B decrypt that message with the key of sender A and read that message. So here we can use same key for encryption and decryptions. Example like our scooter or car can lock and unlock with same key. Now I explain next technique is asymmetric key encipherment. In asymmetric key encipherment, we have the same situation as the symmetric key encipherment with a few exceptions. First is there are two keys instead of one public key and one private key. To send a secure message to entity B, entity A first encrypt the message using entity B public key. To decrypt the message, entity B use his own private key. I explain these things with examples. In this example, we have used two persons like sender A and receiver B. Both are connected with insecure channel. Now, sender A wants to send the message to receiver B from the. For that, sender A encrypt their message with receiver B's public key. Means sender A generates encrypted message and send that message to receiver B. So now message is encrypted from, so unauthorized user cannot understand that message. Now receiver B decrypt that message with its private key and read that message. So here we can use different key for encryption and decryptions. Example like bank locker account. In this, a common key means public key is available in bank, but private key is available only for a particular user. Now I explain next technique is hashing. In hashing, a fixed length message digit is created out of a variable length message. The digit is normally much smaller than the message. To be useful, both the message and the digit must be sent to entity B. Hashing is used to provide check values which were discussed earlier in relation to provide data integrity. Now I explain next technique is stagnography. This is the art of hiding message in another form. Message is not altered as in encryption. A text can hide a message. For example, red umbrella needed may means the message run. The first letter of each word in the text becomes the message. An image can also be used for hiding message. Digital image are after all binary information. Suppose the image is gray image. The least significant bits of successive 8 pixel may be altered to be a specific bits pattern of character. We will discuss these techniques of stagnography in detail in the unit to come. So I hope you can understand these techniques. So thank you friends watching this video. I hope you can understand the security services and its techniques. Thank you.